Angus talking, and I just opened a business kind of on a whim called Colorado Tarot. And I've been reading and studying tarot since 2002, and I got this crazy urge earlier in the year to do it professionally. So here I am, and got an office here in the Hive, and it's worked out really well for me. Well, tarot, of course, is a fairly ancient art, going back to about the 1200s or 1300s. It's a card. It started as a card game. Tarocchi is still played in Italy, but almost immediately after it was introduced as a printed deck, esotericists and Western ceremonial magicians and Kabbalists quickly realized that they could kind of attach their belief systems to the structure of the tarot, which seems very well suited to it. And shortly after it emerged as a board game, people began to use it for divination. Tarot is excellent for addressing that. The Fool's Journey, which is the 21 numbered trumps of the tarot, plus the Fool, specifically addresses life stages and starts with cards like the Lover or the Emperor that talk about temporal concerns or day-to-day concerns, but then very obviously moves on to spiritual ideals like the Hanged Man or the Sun. Even the Devil card talks about transformation. And so considering cards or images and archetypes that come up in a reading can really be helpful for people trying to figure out what their life is going to mean going forward. I do phone readings and online readings. I've done a couple of email readings where I'm just working with a person's question. I prefer to work in the office. I feel like that way I can control the setting a little bit. I subscribe to a theory or concept known as a temporary autonomous zone. Hakim Bey talked about that. And the idea is that you create a zone, so my office, that's temporary, so the time of the appointment. And within that temporary zone, a lot of times ordinary rules of conduct are a little suspended. And specifically, I find that people very quickly find it possible to zero in and talk about what's really important to them at that moment in time. So it's kind of an honor to be part of that process, because I find that people share, and of course I'm discreet and keep all that to myself. But within that temporary enclosed time that's theirs, and working with the third intelligence in the room, the cards and how they're presented. To me, it's a little humbling and often remarkable how quickly we get to the root of very important issues. So I do believe that process goes better one-on-one in the office, where I've been able to control the space a bit and how it's presented. And I do things like meditate or do ceremony in that space. I keep an altar to keep the vibrations high. To me, it felt very serendipitous, just right around the time that I had this idea. People mentioned, hey, the Hive is just opening up, and I met with Chris Yates, and he showed me the offices that were available. And there were a couple that were attractive to me, but I realized the next day that one in particular would really suit me quite well. And Chris was able to customize it in two important ways. He painted the floor the way I wanted it and built in some bookshelves in a place that made sense. And both of those made it very effective. He was also very responsive with smaller issues like getting some insulation in the ceiling to keep the sound from upstairs from coming down, and customizing the door a bit. So I feel like it really came together at a price that was reasonable. And I like the fact that it's in a basement that seems to be appropriate for the tarot. It creates kind of a enclosed, comfortable, almost cave-like atmosphere that's kind of nice for a place to spend an hour and do a reading. So yeah, and the energy all around is a really good thing. It's kind of nice to come in and see people, to see the art shows going, to have the lobby next door so people can wait if I'm doing a reading. In a lot of ways, it just seems perfectly suited for what I'm doing. And there's even some other healers in the office, so there's some nice synergy in the building. two ways. There's only one Angus stocking, so far as I know. So they could search for me on Facebook and send me a message that way. Or I have a profile for my business and self at hivepaonia.com, and that address is going to be hivepaonia.com/Colorado Tarot.